Welcome to another episode of the Programming Lions podcast, where we are on a mission to be more productive humans in mind, body, and spirit. Today, we have patriotism queued up as our topic, and we are going to dig into what does that mean? What does it embody? Who embodies it? So let's get right into it. Patriotism. You all know what this is and what it means, right? You want to tell me?
It is how proud people are to be an American.
Mm-hmm. Or of their
country.
Respective country, yes. Well, let's get into this because this is a great topic. I think it's a well-timed topic as well. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot of political division. There's a lot of social conflict. There's just a lot of division. And patriotism is one of those things that brings us together, right? It brings people in a nation, in a country together, unites them towards one common mission. And what would you say that our common mission is in the United States?
We separated from Britain for freedom.
Freedom. Yes, Max. Well, freedom is the answer. You know, America broke off from Britain because they wanted to create a free society, and that's what they did.
Yep.
And since the development of America, and some people seem to criticize the early days of America, and not that everything that was done was perfect, but it's really hard to argue anything except that America is the most just, the most righteous, the most fair, the most equitable, the most generous country, the most innovative, the most industrious country in the history of known civilizations.
That's a lot of big words.
Oh, yeah. So there's a lot to be proud of there with America, right?
Yes.
And our flag sort of represents America.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
In
fact,
the American flag.
Look at right behind you. And we created this podcast as part of our GSD Nation strategy called Programming Lions, which is about bringing these two lion cubs and making them into men with the vision of America and freedom. What does patriotism mean to you, or where do you see it in your daily lives?
To be proud of your country.
Is that an Irish accent, Max?
I don't know. I don't know.
I see it.
It's pretty funny. To be proud of your country. Scottish accent.
Max, you're a weird one.
Yeah.
But that's kind of okay because we do have a lot of immigrants from these various nations. And so people speak all kinds of languages here, but they still love America.
Yeah,
or at least they used to. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One place where I see patriotism is where each time after we come from school, you know, we're going up our road and then we see this giant, and then we see this guy in his house, right? He just has a giant flagpole. Yes, my bedroom setup is very good, very patriotic. Yes, so I have my bed, right, and then on my sides, all my shelves and everything, and right in front of my bed, every time I go to sleep, I have this big American flag that I stare at.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the things I wanted for my birthday.
Yes, you asked for that, which sort of surprised your mother and I. And we're obviously happy to do that and put it up. And so, yeah, that's pretty cool. So you've got an American flag you're looking at from laying in your bed every day. Where else do we have American flags around the house? We got a couple in this room.
Yeah, we have one behind us, one in the corner, one in the bathroom, and one in Will's room.
There's one more.
One in our hearts.
No, one in the garage. Right when we walk into the door, there's one right above us.
There's one right above the door from the garage into the house, right? Okay, where else do you see patriotism on a daily basis?
Pledge of Allegiance and the preamble. It's kind of like I feel proud to do it as an American, and it just feels good to be a American in this great country that we live in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. I was just about to say the same thing.
Pledge of Allegiance at school?
Yeah, because we do it every single day.
Right. Yep. Right. So do you know some veterans, boys?
Mm-hmm.
Grandpa.
And
Grandpa, what war did Grandpa fight in?
Vietnam.
Vietnam. Yes. So your mother's father was in Vietnam. And who else?
And Neil.
Neil. Okay. That's your great grandpa on my side of the family.
Yep.
He was in the Navy.
He was.
He fought in World War II.
Yeah, he was those boats that blew up submarines.
Yes, he was in the Navy and he was on a sub chaser, and so they had these, you call them depth charges or something, but they try to protect the big boats, the aircraft carriers from submarines.
Yes.
Yeah, and he was largely stationed in the Pacific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty scary.
Pretty scary, and it's hard for people to even imagine what these people went through at that time. My grandmother and Neil, okay, Laverne and Neil, they went out to San Diego. She worked in a factory while he was off stationed in the Pacific for 2 years. Think about that.
Wow,
And
that's
You're
insane.
just probably wondering.
and your
when
other
did it come
great
back?
grandfather on my mother's side, Frank, was a pilot.
And didn't like one time a bullet? He was wearing a scarf. A bullet went straight through his scarf, and when he landed, he found out.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah, that's great. You remember that story. I think, well, I know he told me that story, and then I've shared that story with you boys.
Pretty
But
cool.
one time he came back from a mission that was pretty heavy in terms of action. And he came back, and as he was taking his scarf off, he realized there was a hole in it. And he looked at his windshield, and there's a hole in his windshield. And so the bullet had gone, I think, through the right across the back of his neck and missed him, but went through his scarf.
That's insane.
So that's how close things can be.
Wow. Yeah.
Let me ask you another question
the what?
Oh.
about patriotism.
Ooh.
When do you feel the most patriotic?
Well, I already mentioned before when we
4th of July. Like when we go to Minnesota,
Yes.
we just are like, we are free.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, if you saw that Instagram post last year.
Yes. Yeah. Feel
Yes.
free to look at our Instagram history, and
Yeah.
you'll see the boys like saluting the flag on the 4th of July, which was very nice. 4th of July is when we remember and we celebrate our independence from Britain, right?
Yeah.
mhm.
So it's a pretty awesome time, and we shoot off fireworks, and you hear a lot of patriotic music and fireworks, and it's pretty cool. So that is maybe the most patriotic time of the year. Any other times?
I like in history when we learn about like major victories or stuff like that. I
Yep.
just like I don't know what happens, but like I just get really excited about it.
Yeah. Just like we're learning about the Battle of Saratoga.
Okay.
That was the turning point of the war.
History, you sense a lot of patriotism when you learn about history, and in school you've had the great opportunity to learn about history, and a lot of that includes some of the wars in the founding years of the country. And Max, you mentioned different battles, so yeah, that's pretty interesting, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And other times of the year, what about Memorial Day? What does that represent?
That mostly represents
That one's for the dead.
Yeah, the dead who fought for our freedom of what we enjoy today.
Yep. That's
And,
right.
yeah.
And then we also have Veterans Day, correct?
Mhm.
Yes, those are for the
Like,
veterans.
yeah, just like our grandpa, he's still alive. Who
That's right.
we call him every
It's
Veterans
the first
Day.
one we call every Veterans Day.
Yep, and we're just like, Happy Veterans Day! Thank you for serving for our country.
That's right. And we owe those people a big debt of gratitude. And then we also have President's Day. You find that patriotic?
It just yeah, well,
Yes. Yeah. The thing is that it's just basically celebrating presidents' birthdays.
Yes.
yeah, like George Washington.
What are some other things that symbolize or boost patriotism?
I like that singer Kid Rock.
Yeah.
Who sings like We the People or like those other songs are pretty patriotic. Whenever I listen to them, I'm like, jamming.
Yeah.
So
He definitely has a patriotic vibe to his music, and so you got to
Yes,
appreciate
I
that
got it.
about him. Not everybody loves Kid Rock, but he's definitely pro-America, right?
yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else in the music realm?
Another one, I'm not a big fan of music, but I like some good ones are country music, I guess.
Yes.
Those things have a lot of like America,
Yeah.
beer stuff.
Yes.
wine, girls, things like that.
Yes, country music is pretty well known for being patriotic.
Who's David Morris? I like him.
David Morris, he's a country singer, but he kind of raps, doesn't he,
Yes,
Max?
it's
Yeah.
like rap. And
he's pretty good.
also, who's that other guy who said in "Die Did We Stand" that song?
Oh, Lisa Alexander.
Yeah, I also like him.
Oh yeah, he's good. He's good. Yeah, there's a lot of good artists that are pro-America. You could say a lot of country artists. We also have checked out Tom McDonald, right? He's done some
Yes,
interesting.
yeah.
He's done some interesting.
Yeah, we even reacted to one. You should go and check it out.
Yeah, you should check it out. We've got a reaction to his tune with Ben Shapiro of all people. We've got a reaction to that on YouTube. What about cars? When you think of patriotism, what kind of car comes up in your mind?
I feel like a truck.
Yeah.
You know,
big
like
truck.
Big truck with some American flags on it.
Yeah. Okay, what else comes to your mind when you think of patriotism?
People.
What kind of people?
First responders are really good. Army. People in the army, military, I think, are good. Yes.
They're scary.
Yeah, they can be. That's their job.
Yeah.
So when you think of patriots, you think of the military, all the various branches of the military, maybe first responders.
Yeah.
And when I say first responders, I mean that's things like police,
Frontiers.
fire.
That's what those are.
How about specific people? Let's split this up into historically and then today. So historically, when you think of patriots, who comes to your mind?
I think of George Washington.
Okay.
Abraham Lincoln.
Yes.
Ben Franklin.
Okay.
I feel like John Hancock.
Yes.
Okay. How about why?
Tell us why, Max.
Because, guys, first of all, let me start with George Washington.
Okay.
He was general of the Continental Army who helped us, or basically led the army to victory against the British.
Right.
And then, and Ben Franklin, and then I got to give credit to people who died in the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution.
Right.
Those also made our country.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's just
Ben Franklin and John Hancock were both on that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then that's
and then there's also Abraham Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he
was great.
Yeah, he ended slavery.
Yes, he did.
But I didn't like how he got assassinated.
No.
Well, yeah, that was because I feel like other than George Washington, he was my second favorite person from history.
Thomas Jefferson? I'm surprised that name.
Thomas Jefferson. Yeah, he's also pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he also is very good. But I think of Abraham Lincoln before him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thomas Jefferson's good. He also signed the Declaration Constitution.
I think he was very instrumental in writing it as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He wrote the Constitution.
That's right. Yes. Those are some patriots. Who are some patriots that come to your mind when you think of current day people?
Current day? I kind of feel like
Yeah,
I think Will's pointing at me. Well, I appreciate that, buddy.
Yeah, you're pretty patriotic, Dad.
Patriotic.
You always love talking about politics and trying to fix things. That's why you started this channel.
Yes.
I do.
I fancy myself as a fixer, but the country's got a lot of fixing to do. All right, so Max, you were going to say somebody else outside of this room, I assume?
Donald Trump sometimes.
Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Oh, a lot of people wouldn't agree with you on that, Max.
I know. But
controversial.
I don't care.
That's a controversial statement. Donald Trump, patriotic? Come on.
I don't care.
He's a threat to democracy. Don't you know that, Max?
No.
Why do you think of Donald Trump when you think of patriotism, Max?
Just like the same. Make America great again.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's just like he's trying to make America great again.
Yes.
By basically securing the border.
Mm-hmm.
But then Joe Biden came into his way.
Mm-hmm.
And then doing all that stuff to help America and do all that to secure our freedom, to not do any more wars.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm just kind of thinking and then I look at Joe Biden, he's just eating ice cream with a burning house behind him.
Okay, Max.
Wow, that's wow.
Max, you're gonna need your own news channel someday. I don't know what to say about that.
I like Tucker Carlson.
Tucker Carlson.
He's really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
You are a Tucker fan. You're partway through his book, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a really good book. But yeah, my friend Jimmy gave that to me. Anyway though, yeah, he's really cool because even though he was fired from Fox, he's still going and he's still putting out the best quality stuff.
Okay. One that I'll throw into the mix that is also maybe a little bit controversial. There's so many. I think there's a lot of political people, for sure, that you could say are patriotic and that are trying to do the right things. There's a lot of them that are horrible too.
Wow.
And we won't get started on that. We're trying to just really talk about patriotism. But there's somebody that's not in the political arena, which is Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got to give him a ton of credit. This guy took $44 billion of his own money and bought Twitter because he believed in free speech so much. Free speech is our First Amendment for a reason, right? Because it's really important. And he felt like it was being sacrificed for control and power. And so whether you think that's true or not, you got to tip your hat to a guy that has built incredible inventions, that built more sustainability between his cars and reusable rockets, and then trying to protect free speech. Like, it's hard to not call that gentleman a patriot. Now that we've talked about who does embody patriotism, can you think of anybody that does not?
Benedict Arnold. No, he just ended up in Britain, died in Britain. That's why people call people like, you're a Benedict Arnold, meaning you're a traitor.
Yeah.
I do not remember his name, but he was the president of the Confederacy.
Okay.
Yes. I do not like him.
Yeah.
He ran against the home country and then he tried to get away from us. That's not very patriotic.
Okay. How about today? Do you think there are any?
Joe Biden.
That was quick, Max.
Wow.
Yeah, he loves inflation.
Yeah. Well, inflation.
He loves inflation. Now he's blaming other people on inflation.
And also, he's not like doing anything about the border. How many people are coming over?
Yeah.
And like, have you seen the Texas border?
Yeah.
It's like a fish.
Yeah. Some would say that it's traitorous to not secure the border when he has executive privileges to do so. The almost intentional cause of inflation through excessive spending causes a wider rift between poor and high income people. And so one might say that is against sort of the grain of America.
A lot more probably.
How about getting us into wars?
Yeah, that's not very good, sending money to those things. The student loan stuff.
So he has used executive privilege in crisis to forgive about $138 billion in student loans. These are people that took out loans, and then he said, you don't have to pay it back, or part of it, right? And then it went to the Supreme Court, and they said, you can't do that, but he did it anyway.
Yeah, that was actually the second. He was the second president since Andrew Jackson. Yes,
okay.
Andrew Jackson.
Right. That's right. That was, and Andrew Jackson went against the Supreme Court decision
because a certain tribe fined because they were getting pushed out of their home territory.
And he forced those Indians out of their home territory.
Yeah, the Indian Removal Act.
Yeah. So Biden's in select company there, going against Supreme Court decisions as I guess you'd call him a judicial system denier. Yeah, there's a lot of presidents that want to give people stuff because then they get liked and they get votes.
Yeah.
But they're not holding people accountable, which creates long-term benefits for society. And you can get short-term benefits by printing money and giving it to people, but that's not really like a good long-term play. We could criticize politicians because I think as we talk about Biden and some of the weird things he's done, going against Supreme Court rulings, getting us into wars, getting us into further debt, largely causing deeper levels of inflation. But people on the other side of the fence, and I know, Max, you mentioned Trump on your Patriot side, but some people would say, well, he encouraged an insurrection, which was
the worst person known to man.
This group that went into the Capitol. And some people might argue that it's not an insurrection. It was a protest. It was not an armed, intentional overtake of the government.
It's kind of both sides there.
Yeah. And he hasn't been convicted. A lot of people call him an insurrectionist, and they call the event an insurrection, but Trump himself hasn't been convicted. There have been other people that were part of the event that are in jail. So one might say, well, that's not very patriotic. The peaceful transfer of power is sort of a tradition that most presidents accept, and I think it's fair to say that Trump had a hard time accepting that. But certainly there are shenanigans that happen, and there was certainly shenanigans that happened in that election leading up to it, with news and suppressing certain news stories, and some of the way that big tech promoted voting and who to vote for and all of that. But at the end of the day, the votes came in and they were in somebody's favor. And so what I would say I would attribute that to is that the ground game of one of the parties, being the Republican Party, was just overworked. They got beat. They just weren't as smart.
Yeah.
They weren't as nimble. They didn't address some of these apathetic voters and ballots, where the Democrats had a great ground game, and they got all those ballots, and they got signatures of people that didn't want to vote, and they used those and they cast them towards Democrats, and that's what they did. And that's something, that's it's a strategy. It's not a strategy that many people think is ethical, but it's technically legal. We've talked about a lot. This was really fun. I think it was important too, because sometimes we need to be reminded about what patriotism means and how to be patriots. So let's wrap this up with a little bit about what can we do, us, this GSD nation in this room, and what can our community do to be better people and patriots?
Well, first thing they can do is subscribe, right? They can do that, right?
Yes.
So that's one thing they could do, right? They do that, and then they spread the word. They spread the word about this. We could put up flags, right? We could put up flags on our house.
Yep.
Spread the word of we're proud to be Americans. Put up some American flags. Wear some American clothes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Listen to country music.
Yeah.
Drive a truck.
Yeah, drive a truck.
Here's a couple things I would say, and let me know if this resonates with you boys. One is, this is a free country.
Yes.
And because it's a free country, we have the opportunity to say what we think is right and stand up for our rights. And when you stop doing that, you stop becoming a patriot. It's really important that you stand up for what you believe is right, even sometimes when it's hard to do. In fact, that's the most important time, is when you know something is right, you got to stand up against it, because this is America, and that's what we do. So that's one thing I would tell people. And the other is constructive dialogue and discourse. We see this a lot. People fighting all the time. Oh, it's just very hateful and tensious back and forth between Republicans, Democrats, or whatever.
Yes.
And the truth is, they both have terrible ideas and policies. And there's usually something in the middle that is the right answer, but they're not working together. So then nothing gets done, and we have stagnation, and then we have everybody just blaming each other, right? They're like, oh no, it's this guy, and all they do is blame bills that have hooks into other things that they want, and so they can't pass anything on its own merit, and it's just a big mess. So that's Washington, where they don't get anything done. But as Americans, we can get things done, and we can do that through having civil discourse. We can disagree, and we can agree to disagree. For example, somebody left a comment the other day about how, I don't know, something we said was wrong or trash. And I responded with, well, I appreciate your comment and I respect your view. I just don't share your view. Okay. And I think that's a pretty fair way to look at things. We don't always have to agree. We do generally have to respect each other's views, unless they're evil or radical, maybe. So I would encourage people to think more about, how do you have constructive dialogue and stand up for your rights? Because we're in a time where it's very toxic, and that toxicity is just eating us up from the inside out. And that's exactly what our foreign adversaries want. And we need to be united. And patriots are united under one flag, right?
Yep.
And so let's get back to those core principles. And with that, let's call it a wrap. Any final words, gentlemen?
Be patriots.
Okay.
Subscribe.
If you enjoyed this content, Please subscribe, like, comment, share. It really makes a difference for us. Thank you. Until next time.